All right, Bitcoin is taking the market by storm and causing controversy and uncertainty the world over. Could Bitcoin be the death of the dollar? Former U.S. Congressman and presidential candidate Ron Paul is here with his take in a first on Fox Business interview. It is great to have you back on the show, Congressman. What do you think of Bitcoin?
Well, I think it's a mystery to a lot of people, and there's a lot of mystery associated with it it's to me as well, because I can't quite describe to you exactly what a Bitcoin looks like or what it's all about. But it's an interesting phenomenon, and it's very attractive to the libertarians because it sort of fits this category of competing currencies. But, you know, if we have a replacement for the dollar, it'll be because somebody at the Federal Reserve destroyed the value of the dollar, and therefore something has to take its place. And, you know, if you look at the last 100 years, the Fed's been working on it.
Yeah.
About 98% of the value of the dollar is gone.
Especially lately, they've been working really hard on it. You were quoted as saying that you thought that Bitcoin could be the destroyer of the dollar. Did you say that? What did you mean by that?
Well, I think there was a little bit lost in the translation there because there was a lot of ifs, ands, and buts and maybes in there. But if the dollar goes down, if the Fed really causes a panic out of the dollar, which we had in 1979, but it required interest rates up to 21% to save the dollar. But if you have a rush out of the dollar, which I anticipate will happen, to what degree and how, what will happen, we don't know.
Yeah.
But if Bitcoin is out there and gold is out there, it can be a participant in bringing down the dollar. You know, there will be a momentum in a certain direction. So, but we don't even know about Bitcoin. That doesn't have a very long history. I like the history of gold, of course, because it's a little bit longer. But if the Bitcoin fits the bill and there's no fraud involved, I think, yes, it can be a participant, and there'll be other currencies similar to this, I think, as time goes on. Well, the thing that surprised me the most was the sort of the acceptance by Bernanke, not saying, you know, that this was a terrible thing. He was saying, oh, this sounds pretty good. We have to consider this as a possibility. He was much more adamant when I asked him about gold. He said, absolutely not. Yeah. Gold is not money, but maybe Bitcoin is. And I just wonder whether it is less threatening to the central bank, and that makes me think about what's going on with Bitcoin.
Do you think it's really less threatening Bitcoin, though? Because, I mean, what's really interesting about it is that the government has control more or less over the dollar. I mean, like you're saying, they could lose control through their own actions, but for now, you know, they're trying to manage the value. They seem to have no control over Bitcoin so far, and I can't imagine they're going to let it remain that way.
Yeah, and that's why, you know, governments are notorious in demanding total monopoly over money and credit. So that it raises a lot of questions on what's going on here. We do know that these blockchains that are recorded tell us where this money goes and how much money it is. And the feds didn't have any trouble tracking down the drug dealers that were dealing in Bitcoin. So I think there's a lot to be learned about this. But in my own mind, I just have trouble believing that this will be the money of the future. It may be an interim money. It may work better than I think, and who knows what will happen. But for some reason, the history of money shows that people like to see something and touch something and understand something. It's pretty hard.
They do. But if you think about the origin of fiat money, you know, I mean, in the beginning, it was ridiculous. Rather than trading something that was of actual value, you've got something that's just a symbol. It's not that big of a leap. I mean, this, like you say, it exists digitally in your digital bank account.
Yeah, but Melissa, you skipped one step. No, they didn't go from barter to fiat money.
No, gold.
This is one thing. This is one thing about Austrian economics. It always says that money has to originate in the marketplace as a commodity and work its way through. Then the commodity money became fiat money. But you don't have any currency that just comes up as a fiat currency. It has to have something behind it. So the question is, will the limitation on the number of Bitcoins out there give that type of stability to the currency? And I don't think the evidence is in yet which way it's going to go. But I'm a strong believer in competing currencies. I've written about it. I've written, you know, proposed laws to allow competing currency. And right now, this might fit the bill. but I'm not predicting that Bitcoin will come out in top, but it may be a major participant, and it's getting a lot of attention, and I sort of enjoy the discussion.
You used a word that is Bitcoin's main problem, which is stability. I mean, is there something that they could do? Is that the key to making Bitcoin more reliable, more acceptable to more people? Because while I think it's interesting and believe in the concept, I would not personally want to put any money that I wasn't, very comfortable with losing into Bitcoin. Could they make it more stable, or would that ruin the underlying premise?
I think they face a major problem because, metals are a little bit different than this, but it wasn't so stable the other day, when the Chinese announced that they weren't going to allow the Chinese to use Bitcoins, and what did it do? Go down $200 or $300, which was a big percentage. But now stability is very difficult. As for fiat money, is never going to be stable. It's always going to deteriorate. A Bitcoin is quite a bit different. It's something that's come about in the modern age. It's waiting to see. But I'm like you. I'm not buying any Bitcoins and putting them in my shoebox.
Before we run out of time, I want to ask you real quick. How do you think that this is all going to end with the Fed? I mean, they have brought in unusual measures that we've never seen before. A lot of people think inflation is around the corner, and when it comes, it will be runaway. Do you think that? How do you think this all plays out, everything that's happened with quantitative easing?
Well, from an Austrian economic school viewpoint, you already have the inflation. Inflation means when the supply of money is massively increased, and it's out there. Now, the velocity is subjectively determined. It hasn't started to circulate. They have no control over that. So even if they quit, let's say the conditions are such they think they could quit the quantitative easing, there's still so much out there, they can't predict what would happen. So the price inflation, which is a secondary consequence of monetary inflation, is yet to come. No, I think we're in for big trouble, because even if they give a token little cutback on quantitative easing, it's going to panic the markets. And if you get somebody like Yellen in office and they're trying to do that, she is bolder than the rest of them have ever been. So she will not hesitate, and that's the only tool left for stability in the economy and economic growth is you print more money, and you print more money along with government spending more money, and there is a limit to that, and that is what I've been saying, and I'm sure they cannot solve our problems by doing the same thing that created our problems.
Congressman, we're out of time. Will you come back, because I want to talk to you more about that topic. We didn't have enough time on the Fed. Will you come back and do more with me?